Right now, you might be looking at a calendar with a growing sense of dread. Maybe you're approaching 40 and suddenly you feel the urge to change your career, buy a car you can't afford, or panic because you feel like your best years are behind you. We call it the midlife crisis, a modern rite of passage defined by existential panic and the fear of fading away.
But for 99.9% of human history, this feeling didn't exist. For over 300,000 years, your ancestors didn't look in a mirror and mourn their youth. They didn't have bucket lists, and they certainly didn't feel like they were running out of time. In fact, reaching middle age in the ancient world wasn't a crisis, it was a promotion.
Tonight, we're going to uncover why your middle-age anxiety is a modern glitch. We'll bust the myth that everyone died at 30, unpack the biological power of the grandmother effect, and look at the hard science of how your brain was actually built to peak in the very years you're currently dreading.
Because if you feel like you're past your prime, the truth is far more interesting. Your body isn't failing, it's finally stepping into its role.
Before we understand the crisis, we have to kill the biggest lie you've been told about history, that ancient humans all died at 30. You've probably seen the statistic. Average life expectancy in the Stone Age was around 30 years old, but average is a deceptive word.
In ancient times, the world was brutal for a baby. Without medicine or hospitals, infant mortality was high, and those early deaths dragged the average way down. But if you survived the gauntlet of childhood, if you made it to age 15, you weren't halfway to the grave. You were likely going to live into your 60s, 70s, even your 80s.
Archaeologists have found the remains of elderly hunter-gatherers who survived broken bones and total tooth loss, kept alive for decades by the care of their tribe. Your ancestors knew exactly what an old person was. They just didn't see aging as a decline.
In a world with no Google, no libraries, no written records, experience was the only currency that mattered. An ancient 40-year-old wasn't a fading athlete. They were a living library of survival. The one who remembered where the hidden water holes were during a drought that happened 20 years earlier. That's knowledge a 20-year-old simply couldn't possess, no matter how fast they could run.
Here's a strange biological mystery. Humans are one of the only species on Earth where females live decades past their reproductive years. In most of the animal kingdom, once you can't reproduce, evolution has no more use for you. But humans broke that rule.
Scientists call it the grandmother effect. Evolution actually selected for humans who lived long enough to become elders, because a tribe with a grandmother in it was significantly more likely to survive than a tribe without one.
While the young parents were locked into the exhausting, high-burst biology of hunting and gathering, the middle-aged and elderly members of the tribe were the stabilizers. They provided the extra calories, the childcare, the memory of past dangers, and the social glue that kept the whole group from falling apart.
Ancient humans didn't have a midlife crisis because they didn't have a crisis of utility. They weren't anxious about identity because their identity was already fused to the survival of the people they loved. You weren't getting old, you were becoming indispensable. It's not just social value. Your brain itself changes in your favor at midlife. Neuroscientists describe a shift from what's called fluid intelligence, the fast, raw processing power of a 20-something brain, toward crystallized intelligence, pattern recognition, judgment, and the ability to read a situation instantly because you've quite literally seen it before.
This is why so many surgeons, pilots, judges, and master craftspeople hit their professional peak in their 40s and 50s, not their 20s. Your brain isn't slowing down so much as it's specializing, trading raw speed for something harder to fake, wisdom. For your ancestors, that trade was the entire point. A slower, wiser elder was worth infinitely more to the tribe than a fast, inexperienced teenager wandering into a hungry lion.
So if our biology is built for aging well, why does it feel so bad today? The answer isn't in your biology. It's in how we've restructured our lives. For 300,000 years, you never slept alone. You lived in what anthropologists sometimes call a safety pile, a tight-knit group of roughly 30 people who shared every burden. The weight of survival never rested on one set of shoulders. If you were a middle-aged hunter who'd lost a step, the tribe still fed you because of the wisdom you brought to the fire.
Today, we've traded the tribe for the nuclear family and the solo career. We live behind closed doors and isolated houses, and we've been told our value is tied to our productivity, how fast we can work, how much we can earn, how young we can look while doing it. When you hit 40 today, you feel a crisis because for the first time in human history, you are genuinely on your own.
The modern world worships the burst energy of youth, but has no seat at the table for the slow, deep wisdom of the elder. We traded the communal fire for a smartphone screen, and in the process, we turned aging into something that can feel like solitary confinement. The midlife crisis isn't a biological fact, it's a cultural symptom. It's the sound of an ancient, tribal brain trying to make sense of a world that values new over wise. Your ancestors didn't need to buy a sports car to feel alive at 45. They felt alive because they were the storytellers by the fire, the teachers of the next generation, the keepers of the tribe's history. They knew life isn't a sprint to a finish line. It's a relay race, and your most important lap starts exactly when you think you're getting tired.
So next time you catch a new wrinkle in the mirror or a gray hair you swear wasn't there last week,
Remember, that's the mark of a survivor. You're one of the lucky few who made it past the average to become a vessel for human experience. You aren't losing your youth. You are gaining your history. If you want to keep exploring the lost history of who we are, hit subscribe. We're going deeper into the biological echoes that make you, you. Because you are history.